Okay, welcome back, guys. Here I'm going to be talking about every early game unit, item holders for stuff like that, what you should be thinking about mid game in transitioning these units into a late game board, and then BIS carries as I get higher and higher cost. I'll just start with like 1 to whatever. Caitlyn is actually really strong. I think the opener is usually going to be Caitlyn with Brawler frontline, so you can pair it with Enforcer with Vi, and then Caitlyn really does hold AD items such as Urgot really well, and you can just do a really nice bruiser transition. And they can also hold AP items, but I think the AP transition is really bad from Caitlyn, so I wouldn't recommend it. But Caitlyn with Shojin is not bad for killing units as well. Camille is really strong with innovators. It pairs well with Zillion because of clockwork, and then if you hold Camille, you probably want to be holding Ezreal's. Darius is the same thing. I wouldn't recommend doing a I wouldn't recommend putting items on Camille, by the way, because sometimes you play Camille late game because it has really nice typing. Darius is going to be just like a really strong generic frontline unit. You can go like Darius Poppy. Sometimes you can play Syndicate, but most of the time it's just going to be bodyguard plus frontline, or bodyguard from plus backline. Sorry. Ezreal is just going to be innovators. It's probably the best item holder in the game. How Ezreal's played is you just play innovator mid game. It's really strong stage 1, stage 2, or stage 2 and stage 3, and then stage 4 it really does fall off. Garen is just going to be played with Kassadin. It's just a generic frontline with Garen, Kassadin with Blitzcrank, and your backline is probably going to be like Katarina with Sin, or you're just going to be running Garen for the protector and just running a backline such as Caitlyn or Ezreal, stuff like that. Alawi too is a really nice transition into bruisers, obviously. Poppy's kind of the same thing as Darius. Sometimes you make money with Yordles. Kassadin's kind of the same thing as Garen. Rarely do you pivot into Mutant, but sometimes you do. Singe is most of the time going to be Innovator, but sometimes you go Chemtech. TF early game, dude, TF Morello, there's nothing balanced about TF Morello. And then also, I think I talked about in the tier list video, AP items holding for TF can easily just be transitioned into a Kali, assuming you can remake. Sometimes you just play TF Morello into an Arcanist cap with Victor, and you just don't sell the TF. And then Twitch can hold AD items. Most of the time you're playing Sins over Chemtech though. And then you just have frontline like Poppy and Darius. Ziggs is just a scrap bot. It kind of enables your AP. It's kind of just a synergy bot, not a scrap bot. It enables Yordles, it enables AP, it enables scrap with Blitzcrank, Trundle, Ezreal, which are the better units. Blitzcrank is just really well paired with an upgraded Poppy or an upgraded Darius, and then you can cheese scrap mid game. Katarina is probably one of the best Sins if you're playing a Sin backline and you have like maybe Garen 2 early game or Graves 2 early game. Oh, Kog'Maw is super good when you're playing a Mercenary opener because Kog'Maw pairs directly with GP and MF. So you really want this Kog'Maw on 6 to cash you out. Or you can go 7 on 3-5 and roll down for like GP2, MF2, Kog'Maw 2, and stuff like that to cash out. But MF and GP are primarily the carries in Mercenary most of the time. Unless you find an Urgot on 7, it's just like really nice typing. Sometimes you play Mutant, but not that often. Sometimes you play Tempo Arcanist with Lulu, but most of the times you don't itemize her. She's just going to be a throwaway Yordle. And maybe you pair it with Taric on 6 in the Tempo Arcanist build. Quinn is just, this unit is not that good early game. It's actually not that bad late game as a challenger bot, but early game it's basically just a mercenary bot. Swain is actually probably one of the best units. I would almost never play Imperial mid game. It's really bad. Unless you randomly just have a Talon 2, Swain 2 or something, and you just put in a Samira. Talon is probably one of the best units with no items. You just play him. Sometimes if you can't put in a synergy, you just play Talon 1 on each side, but it's just going to be like a good backline. Probably the best item on him is Hodge. Tristana, there's actually a Tristana reroll comp, but it's not that strong. Most of the time, she's just holding AD items or just Yordles to farm more. Or you have like a free Tristana too because your Yordles just kept on spawning Tristanas. Trundle is actually a pretty decent item holder early game. It's stronger the more frontline you have because he basically is part of the frontline. So if your frontline's bad and you carry him, he just dies. But he's scrap. His BIS is like BT, Rudan, stuff like that. Can carry items as well for Yone and Urgot. Vi can easily hold like Sunfire, Spark, and stuff like that. It's just a really good early game with Alawi, and then can transition into a bruiser frontline with Mundo and Zac. Warwick can also hold items for you. Most of the time, you do want 3 Chemtech to a challenger plus whatever. I think one of the better transitions is going to be like Innovator early game with Camille Zillion, and then 3 Chemtech randomly on 6. Zyra is just a really good like standalone. I play most of the time you're playing her with Heimer Innovator, and then Zillion I think I already talked about. Cho'Gath is almost, you never really buy this unit unless you find him on 2-1 or stage 1, because you miss out a lot of stacks, and then losing a unit for him is not that valuable. He sacks two spaces on your board. Echo's pretty good. It's just cheesing scrap basically. If you're playing like Twitch or something with Singed for Innovator, and then you want Blitzcrank with scrap for Echo, that's fine. Or it's not the Blitzcrank. It could be Ezreal as well. GP, you probably want to carry if it's like stage 2. When he shoots a target, he gains a gold, which is actually really nice. But most of the time, you want to play him with Mercenary, or late game, he's just a twin shot bot if you have like Sharpshooter or something. Heimerdinger most of the time is going to be played with. Sometimes you can go Syndicate Zyra with Heimer as Scholar, but most of the time it's just going to be an Innovator bot. Leona is probably one of the strongest generic frontline units. Leona's just obviously paired with Braum. You only play 2 Bodyguard, and then you just play Leona too. Sometimes you play with Yone, but most of the time it's just going to be Leona Braum as your generic frontline. Lissandra's kind of the same deal. It's just a Chemtech bot, Scholar bot late game or early game. But it's not even that bad. It's a pretty good Morello holder, but also Lissandra late game is a pretty good tech if you're playing against like melee frontline. Malzahar is really strong if you have if it's a good mutant such as Metamorphosis. The Elder one, the Darkstar one's okay. Even the Mana one is really good for Malzahar. MF is probably the best unit in the game early game. Can hold AP items really well, and then also just gets paired with Caitlyn, and then you can just play MF Caitlyn. Also, basically, if you have MF, you really want to play Sniper mid game. MF just does infinite damage, and also with 0 items, MF late game can actually hold her own if you want to pair it with Jhin and Clockwork. But MF most of the time is going to be Mercenary early game, but sometimes you streak around MF just because she's so strong. She's probably getting nerfed soon. Samira is just a challenger bot, just a pretty decent AD item holder. Shaco, I wouldn't actually recommend buying Shaco that much. Sometimes you just have like random Twitch 2 and you just play a Shaco because you have nothing else to play mid game. But I think itemizing Shaco and playing around Shaco, you get locked into your comp because the syndicates are hard to pivot out of unless you're just straight up playing syndicate. If you have nothing else to play, Taric is really good. The healing is super strong, and then also the Socialite Hex is good. It's especially better. Vex is probably one of the best early game units. Also, you can pair it early game with 3 Euro, 4 Arcanist, and then just play your front line around Vex and maybe into like a Braum Leona later, and then play something else. But sometimes you just keep your items on Vex too, and you just play it like that. Zac early game, same thing, same deal as Vi, same deal as Alawi. That's pretty much all the bruisers. I wouldn't recommend putting items on Zac because it's hard to remake Zac, and then you want your items on Mundo ideally. Braum can hold all the frontline items, so can Leona. You basically just hold items. Oh, Braum 2 is super important because it dodges Enforcer. You basically just itemize with tank items, either Leona or Braum, whatever is upgraded first, and then Mundo's holds all of your frontline items in the Brawler frontline. Fiora is just like basically a challenger Enforcer bot and holder of leftover items. I think the BIS for Fiora is not going to be like a Hodge IEJG as it suggests. It's just going to be leftover stuff. Like sometimes you have Academy Spat, sometimes you have a leftover Redemption, sometimes you have Warmog's Redemption. You don't really have Leona 2 yet. You just put it on Fiora. Hodge is okay. Like even Runads, just like leftover stuff. You just put on Fiora and just help your team out. Janna is probably just put like a tier or a belt for scrap if you have leftover. Jhin actually holds like a lot of good items. It can use DB, it can use Hodge, IE, Last Whisper, you can use Ginsu, Runads. It doesn't matter. Basically, if you have a win streak opener and you just want to, and you don't really hit the Yone and Urgots because a lot of them are gone, sometimes you just default to Jhin and you just bleed out slowly. Lux BIS is probably blue buff IEJG, but most of the time it's just going to be stuck with like a leftover like Archangel or something because the Yone is holding the hogging the glove and BS sword items and stuff like that. Orianna is probably just gonna be like TG. You just put her solo frontline, it's fine. You just have her cast once and she's dead. Seraphine, sometimes you can go like even Morello, Shojin and stuff like that. Sion, there's like the one shot Sion build with Hodge IEJG, but it's not that good. Most of the time you probably want to go tank and you just carry someone else, but I don't think Sion's very good as a unit. Urgot, you can go like RSC, you can go Last Whisper, you can go QSS, you can go Hodge, you can go DB, GS, everything. It's just going to be a solid late game carry. So is Yone. You can go Ginsu, you can go GA, you can go Runads, you can go Hodge, DB, GS, Last Whisper, IE, QSS. But yeah, for Urgot, Yone, Akali, I would recommend actually watching the tier list video. I think I do a good job talking about that. Akali, late game, when you have 7 syndicate, her items don't actually matter, but obviously BIS is IE +2. Blue buff is okay. Hodge is okay. Like tank items are probably better though. Like GA, Warmogs. You can even go like Sunfire, Declaw, Spark. Like it doesn't matter. Just put 3 items on her and you're good to go. As long as you have 7 syndicate, she's going to pop off. Galio is just obviously generic frontline items, but the thing is I almost never play Galio. I think this unit's not that strong. Jace's best in slot is probably Titans, Bramble, Hodge. but it doesn't really matter. He conflicts items with Mundo, but sometimes you randomly hit Jace before you see a single Mundo. Jinx BIS is probably Ginsu, GS Hodge, but sometimes you don't need Hodge if you have like Celestial, so you can go like G8 Ginsu, something like that. You can also go like Rabadon's IEGG if you want to go for AP Jinx. That's good as well. Kaisa really does depend on mutant. For example, if you have like Metamorphosis that gives armor and MR, most of the time you probably want healing on her. I also don't think Shojin is that good, but I think like Ginsu GS Hodge is good. Ginsu GS JG is good. Morello is also really good if you just have a random Morello from like a TF early game. Tahm Kench usually conflicts with Mundo, but I think if you are high rolling super hard and you already know you can play for Tahm Kench too and a well-fed Tahm Kench, then you can start itemizing TK. You probably want one healing item in full tank. So like Redemption is good, but like Warmog's Bramble, Declaw, Spark, like all that stuff, it doesn't really matter. Veigar, just don't even worry about this unit. It's not worth it. Victor is just Shojin +2. You could even go like Ginsu Hodge plus whatever. And then Yumi can use Morello decently. You can use Warmogs really well because she heals, or she shields off her max HP. Wow, that was like a speed run. Hopefully that is helpful. Let me know if you guys want any other guides or like suggest any guides that I can maybe think about making that guide as well. But anyway, thank you guys. I'll probably see you tomorrow if you do tune into my stream. But anyway, peace guys.